From courtside the virtual hardwood, it's the NLSC Podcast, a weekly show for basketball gamers and hardcore hoopheads. This is episode 599. I am Andrew in our forum, Andrew NLSC on X and Blue Sky. Joining me as always, my co-host Derek, D3 in the forum, and D3G and D384 on X. Derek, while the on-court action is paramount in basketball video games, presentation does matter, and so does atmosphere. Music is naturally a big part of that, and also our nostalgia for many of our favourite titles. It's a topic that's been on our minds as of late, so please, press play on this episode.
Yeah, and this actually was inspired by a conversation that was taking place on the NLSC Discord. This week's topic is about basketball video game soundtracks. We'll be discussing songs that we believe didn't quite fit. Basically, songs that we feel didn't belong in a basketball video game. We will also be talking about some of our favorite tracks, ones that give us positive memories as it relates to specific titles. So, Andrew, I want to talk about NBA 2K26 first. It's the newest basketball video game release, and there are some songs that immediately come to mind. When I Come Around by Green Day is a very strange choice for a basketball video game. Not just a basketball video game, but a sports game in general. It has nothing to do with this song being older. It's a 90s tune. It's nothing to do with that. And it has everything to do with the lyrics and the vibe it sets. It just doesn't make sense for a basketball video game. Song 2 by Blur is also an odd choice, but at least it has some energy. It could be considered an arena pump-up song. Another strange choice on there is the song What I Got by Sublime. It doesn't really make me think of basketball. I think you would agree that those were some odd choices for the NBA 2K26 soundtrack.
Yeah, we noted that Song 2 by Blur was kind of a strange choice during the preview season that was on the gameplay trailer. Took us by surprise. It's kind of a nostalgic song for us, of course, but yeah, not really what you expect for a basketball game, especially a basketball game in 2025.
Yeah, and it's coming from someone who owned this album. Cypress Hill's Insane in the Membrane doesn't really fit either. Cypress Hill actually had a couple other songs off of the same CD that may have fit better. A song like, Cock the Hammer, but it would need quite a few edits before being game ready. But how often do we see tracks on these basketball video games, Andrew, that are missing a whole bunch of lyrics?
Very
right?
cut up, yeah.
Because they're not really appropriate. So that wouldn't be anything new. However, I do want to point out that my favorite tune on the NBA 2K26 soundtrack is Jam On It by Nucleus. That song came out in 1984. It has an excellent beat and catchy vocals. When I think of NBA 2K26, when I think of putting on the game, that's the song that comes to mind. I also really like Block Rockin' Beats by the Chemical Brothers. This song could have fit many basketball video games from the past as well. And You Know How We Do It by Ice Cube is an awesome fit. That's another one that I like. Overall, I don't hate the NBA 2K26 soundtrack, but it's definitely a mixed bag.
I agree, from what I've listened to in the less hours that I've played it than you have, so you've probably been listening to that soundtrack a lot more than I have. The best song, of course, from 1984 that's ever been in a basketball video game has to be Basketball by Curtis Blow, NBA 2K12.
Yeah, and that was used heavy in the advertising.
Of course.
For that game, especially because that game was so centered around the legends. It was one of the big draws. It was one of the big promoting factors for that title. I'd say for NBA 2K25, Shutterbug by Big Boy, featuring Cuddy, that song was brought back from 2K11, and I do like when they do that, when it's a good track, and I think that's a good one. I have a lot of fond memories of listening to the NBA 2K11 soundtrack. It was, before the Jay-Z influence, right? In NBA 2K13, and that's kind of when soundtracks took a turn at that point. One song that I find incredibly annoying from NBA 2K25, I think it's the most annoying song, and it's called Fashion Week. Just all the wrong vibes. It doesn't fit. The guy's just yelling throughout the entire song. And yeah, I didn't like that one.
I'm not familiar with that one. Probably going to have to go back and listen, but I'm going to trust your judgment on that.
Yeah, you didn't play 2K25 much, and you're also not a fan of 2K26. So I'm hearing these songs a lot more, unfortunately. And from what I know of, we can't really mod those soundtracks either, like I have in the past. You've connected with me on Parsec on games like NBA 2K17, NBA 2K19, and you can hear my custom soundtrack right in the background. But from my knowledge, they didn't figure out how to mod the soundtracks in those games. I did want to bring up NBA 2K19. I think a song that defined that game was Ankle Bully by Dribble Too Much. That was also used in the advertising for the game early on. I think it set the right tone. It made you want to go out onto the virtual hardwood, Andrew, and break some ankles. Game Over by Lil Flip was also on this soundtrack. I think that's another great choice. One that I think fit, which might be surprising, is Fallout Boy, Last of the Real Ones. I know that that's like a rock song, and I know that when you think of basketball, Andrew, you don't think of Fall Out Boy, but I like the pace of that song. I like the lyrics, and it kind of got you pumped up. And Live on Stage by Dilated Peoples was another strong one that was also on NBA Street Volume 2. We love Street Volume 2, so it brings those vibes to a newer title. And I was also a fan of 2K19 after I made a lot of adjustments to the sliders and whatnot and started using more custom rosters. So, yeah, I have that song in 2 games that I like, so that's a bonus.
It's funny that you mentioned Lost the Real Ones by Fall Out Boy. Actually, I've been listening to that a little bit on YouTube recently. Threw on NBA 2K19 the other day and was reminded of it. So yeah, I'd actually have to agree with you there. Speaking of bringing back songs a couple of times, and classic songs at that, Hip Hop Hooray by Naughty by Nature. NBA Live 2000, of course. It's been in a couple of 2K games from memory. Also reminds me, of course, of the Hip Hoop Hooray remix from the NBA Rising Stars VHS back in the mid-90s.
Yeah, that song will always bring the basketball vibes, right? Like, I think that's a great tune for any basketball video game, and I'll never switch that song off if it comes on one of the newer games or one of the classics. So I wasn't a fan, Andrew, of the PS4 Gen NBA Live soundtracks.
Oh yes, the ones curated by Mick, the DJ.
Yeah, not a fan of those, but there is one song that stands out, and not for a good reason. NBA Live 18 had a song called Rolex by AO and T.O. And Andrew, this is one of the most annoying songs I have ever heard on a basketball video game. And it was one of those songs that appeared to be programmed to play often. You know how you'll turn on a game and it's like, why is this the song? There's like 20 or 30 or even 50 songs on the soundtrack. Why do I get this one like half the time when I put the game on? That's what this song was. And it's that stupid song where it's like, I just want to roly with a dab of ranch.
I
already got some designer to hold up my pants. Yeah. I just want some ice on my wrist so I look better when I dance. Have you looking at it, put you in a trance. And then he goes over and over again, all I ever wanted was a roly. It is such a stupid song. It doesn't make me think of basketball. The lyrics suck. How do these songs even make it onto these soundtracks? It just blows my mind. But yeah, that one blows. I hate that song.
I remember talking about that one with the guys when we were connecting to play LNC Thrillho, and someone pointed out that it sounded like rolly through my underpants, and now I just can't hear it any other way, which it's no more ridiculous, I suppose, but I'd have to agree. As much as I love NBA Live 18, I think I need to go into the soundtrack and turn that one off. I'm not a fan either.
Yeah, the way they heard it and the way you can't get it out of your head, that sounds like, honestly, an upgrade somehow to the lyrics that are actually part of the song. That song is absolutely terrible. But I wanted to talk really quick about NBA 2K18. That game had I Can't Drive 55 by Sammy Hagar. And I'm sorry, but keep Sammy Hagar or Van Hagar or any version of Hagar out of my basketball video games. I actually like Van Hagar, like the Van Halen with Sammy Hagar as the singer. I like many of their songs, right? I actually like a few of Sammy Hagar's solo songs as well. But that song just does not fit a basketball game. And his style, in my opinion, just doesn't fit basketball video games. So I didn't really like that one. It felt as out of place as Green Day When I Come Around, right? This was also, and you brought this up, was the soundtrack that brought back, once again, Hip Hop Hooray by Naughty by Nature. Unfortunately, it was in NBA 2K18, a game that we were not fond of, right? A game that we didn't want to play much, that we put down early. But yes, Naughty by Nature, Hip Hop Hooray, which was also on NBA Street Volume 2, was back for NBA 2K18. One song that I thought was wasted on this game was Serious by the Alan Parsons Project.
Mm-hmm. Classic.
Which was the Chicago Bulls entrance song in the mid-90s. And unfortunately, that was wasted on 2K18 that year. Another song that I like from the soundtrack is Slam by Onyx. I think that's great for basketball video games. I think it has the right vibe, the right pace, the right beats, etc.
Yeah, 2K18, kind of a mixed bag. A couple of good ones, some very strange ones. I Can't Drive 55 was actually on my list as well. In that same vein, Pour Some Sugar on Me by Def Leppard. I like the song, but it just doesn't really seem like a good fit for a basketball game. This might be a bit controversial. Gonna Make You Sweat, aka Everybody Dance Now by CNC Music Factory. I guess it's kind of arena music. I didn't really think it was the best fit for a basketball game soundtrack. It's better than those other two, I suppose. Also, Don't Threaten Me With a Good Time by Panic at the Disco is a weird fit, but more importantly, it is so heavily censored, it is comical. You listen to the full version as opposed to what's on the NBA 2K18 soundtrack, and they've had to cut out so much that they might as well have just made it an instrumental or pick something else, not have it on there in the first place. So that's another weird one to me.
And see, this is proof that Andrew and I don't agree on everything. I think Everybody Dance Now, at least it has the right vibe, at least for me.
Fair.
I think it's, it's upbeat. I think it can be loosely associated with sports, etc. I don't hate that one. Panic at the Disco. There was the exception of Fall Out Boy earlier, which, by the way, we've talked about this before, but Fall Out Boy and Panic at the Disco are incredibly similar in sound. In fact, the reason for that is that Panic at the Disco was heavily inspired by Fall Out Boy, and those bands are friends and whatnot, but sometimes you can't tell the difference between the two, right, when you hear them on the radio. But yeah, Panic at the Disco on a basketball video game, yeah, that's a tough fit. So I want to get to the NBA 2K17 soundtrack. Another mixed bag. I hate the fact that they brought back Creator by Santa Gold. I'm not sure what their obsession was with this song, but it made it into many different NBA 2K video games, and it's not a great track. I'm not sure why that got brought back. But there's one song on here that used to drive me absolutely crazy. And not only is the vibe wrong with the song, I don't understand how this song ever made it to any form of popularity, number two. But number three, the lyrics are just weird, okay? And it's a song called Gold by Kiera. There's another song on here on the NBA 2K17 soundtrack called Gold as well, and it's by Imagine Dragons. And I actually think that that's a solid choice, right? I think it has a decent vibe, despite it being, rock or pop rock or whatever you want to call it. I think Gold by Imagine Dragons is solid for NBA 2K17. I don't hate it. But this song, Gold by Kiera, these lyrics, and this is in the first verse of the song. It's gold up in my, and then gold up in my teeth. Don't care what you say to me. I'ma bite your feelings out. I missed you in the basement, but your brother was a good substitute for you. And then the song is just weird throughout. But what stupid lyrics, and what the hell is this doing on a basketball video game? All the wrong vibes, just kind of a weird, icky feeling when you listen to it on the game. I know you couldn't have been a fan of that one.
Yeah, I like the NBA 2K17 soundtrack for the most part. Even some songs that you wouldn't normally put in a basketball video game. I just like that sound in general. So, and of course I enjoyed NBA 2K17 so much that I came to like a lot of songs anyway. But yeah, that one doesn't really feel like a good fit, doesn't feel appropriate. It seems like the kind of song that at one point in time they'd get the artist to do a basketball remix, kind of like Chingy's Right There in NBA 2004 when they made the EA Sports mix, when they changed the more explicit, raunchy lyrics to being basketball themed. That's the kind of thing you need to do with those songs, because otherwise you just end up cutting out big swaths of the songs. NBA 2K14 has an Eminem song, which I do like, and I did grow up listening to Eminem, but they did have to cut out a lot of that song. And it always seems a bit weird, as we said before, that you don't just go with something that they can get under the rating, something that they don't have to cut big bits of the song out of and silence, or basically turn into an instrumental, or again, get them to basketballify it, I suppose.
Yeah, I miss the songs that were custom made for the video game. And one of the soundtracks I'm going to talk about a little bit later is NBA Live 2005. And there's, I think, 4 or 5 songs on there that were specifically made for NBA Live 2005, where the lyrics were altered in order to support the release for that game. And I think that soundtrack is one of the most underrated in basketball video game history. I'll get to it a little bit later. But moving on with NBA 2K17, it had many Drake songs, Andrew, and I'm not a fan of Drake. And Drake has been a regular on 2K games, starting with 2K13. And gets a little old listening to him on all of these different games over the past decade. But 2K17 had Imagine Dragons a couple times here on the soundtrack, and Gold was solid. I normally wouldn't associate Imagine Dragons with basketball, but that track was okay. But yeah, 2K17 mixed bag.
And we actually looked it up just before we started recording, and were reminded that the Gold track by Kiara was on the Michael B. Jordan playlist. So we contributed that one on top of Orange Juice. So thanks, Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, obviously not great taste out of him. NBA 2K16 had a soundtrack that really fit the menu style. Overall, I'm a fan of this soundtrack. Made You Look by Nas was a good one. We Dem Boys by Wiz Khalifa. I Love My Squad by I Am Sue. You Can't Stop the Prophet by Jeru and Damaha. I hope I'm not butchering these. Bugatti by Ace Hood. Same Team by Gangstar. I think that 2K16 had overall a stronger soundtrack than NBA 2K17 and NBA 2K15. It also brought back a few classics from past 2K titles. Skeleton Boy by Friendly Fires, Little by Little by the Chickaroons, and Ride by Zion I. However, there were 2 really strange choices for the soundtrack, Andrew. And in my opinion, they just didn't make sense. Cult of Personality by Living Colour and Blitzkrieg Bop by the Ramones. What the hell with these 2 tracks? I know that they're trying to put variety in there, right? But I think other games made some better choices. Like we mentioned, a good song by Fall Out Boy, who you wouldn't associate with basketball normally, but it was an avenue for them to be able to mix it up, get some rock on there, and still add a song that sort of made sense and gave the right vibe. These 2 songs, what the hell?
Yeah, Cult of Personality, of course, the entrance theme of professional wrestler CM Punk, makes a bit more sense in the WWE games, fits a bit better. Yeah, like you say, there's merit to changing it up and trying to get some other genres, some other styles in there, but those ones just didn't really fit as much as other rock songs and pop rock and so forth did. In that same vein, it's not a game that we talk about that much, but Sony's NBA 08, Underclass Hero by Sum 41. I like the song, but it feels like it should be in a skating game or GTA, not a basketball game. Same kind of vibe.
Yeah, a song that could belong on like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater probably wouldn't fit on a basketball game, right?
No.
Like I definitely agree there. I think NBA 2K15 had the strangest soundtrack on PS4, John Andrew. And my brother and I routinely blame Kevin Durant for this just because he was the cover athlete. Our stance is he must have had some say, right, with the soundtrack. In fact, one of the reasons why we say this is because there were rumblings about the NBA 2K14 soundtrack stating that LeBron had some say in what songs were put on there. But some of these choices are just really strange. Personal Jesus by Depeche Mode, Aerosol Can by Major Lazer, Doo-Wop That Thing by Lauryn Hill, Suck My Kiss by Red Hot Chili Peppers, which was actually used for the game's trailer from memory, Everlasting Light by the Black Keys, and there were 3 Pharrell Williams songs, one which included Gwen Stefani. Get Gwen Stefani away from my basketball video games. That's just not the right vibe. But this, like I said, 2K15, probably the strangest soundtrack on PS4 gen. A couple songs that stand out as positives for me are Dangerous by Busta Rhymes and Grindin' by Clips. But yeah, not one of my favorite soundtracks, and definitely different.
Yeah, I thought that Kevin Durant actually did have some input, because I know that LeBron did. I do remember that was reported that LeBron did have a hand in picking the soundtrack, or at least some of the songs on the 2K14 soundtrack, so it wouldn't surprise me if KD had some input in 2K15 as well. Of course, 2K15 also had Team by Lorde. Interesting choice.
Yeah, Lorde does not make me think of basketball. NBA 2K14, such a breakthrough game on new-gen Xbox One and PS4. But the soundtrack was average at best. I would never have chosen Lost by Coldplay or Blurred Lines by Robin Thicke. Blurred Lines by Robin Thicke is one of the worst basketball video game soundtrack choices, in my opinion, in the history of hoop titles. However, Get Lucky by Daft Punk gives off a solid vibe, as does Hate Me Now by Nas. A song that is hit or miss with a lot of people is In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins, Andrew. And you and I talked about this song in the past being on a soundtrack, and it just being kind of a strange choice. It is slow, but for me, In the Air makes me think of dunking and acrobatic layups, even though the lyrics have nothing to do with that. If you actually listen to the lyrics of the song, it's like, what the hell is this doing on a basketball video game? So I'm like 50-50 on In the Air Tonight belonging on a basketball video game. Phil Collins, he doesn't make me think of basketball.
It's definitely an unorthodox pick. Phil Collins In the Air Tonight. I do like it, though. I do like the 2K14 soundtrack in general. I wouldn't say it's the best. I do like Not Afraid by Eminem, despite the fact that it is heavily censored. I know that I said that Don't Threaten Me with a Good Time by Panic at the Disco on 2K18 was a weird fit, and even more strange because it was heavily censored. I think Not Afraid by Eminem does fit the vibe a little bit better. Clint Eastwood by Gorillaz is nostalgic, basically, and LeBron is our age, so I wasn't surprised to see some nostalgic songs from our teenage years in there, so I kind of enjoyed it in that sense. But yeah, I have actually come to quite like In the Air Tonight in 2K14, but yeah, kind of a mixed bag. I guess because I enjoy the game so much, I've just come to enjoy the soundtrack as background noise to some extent, but I would agree that it's not the strongest.
In the Air Tonight is a song I would not shut off, right? Like, it's not a track that I'm going to change. I mean, so that's why I know I don't hate it on there. But I see why people were like, this is slow, right?
Sure.
I mean, it's a super slow song for a basketball video game. NBA 2K13 is when the soundtracks really started changing. This is when they developed the Jay-Z influence. However, I like this soundtrack for the most part. Good fit with songs like The World Is Yours by Nas, Victory by Diddy featuring Busta Rhymes and Notorious B.I.G. And yes, obviously we don't like P. Diddy, Andrew.
Yeah.
We don't like everything that's happened in real life. But if you actually listen to that song, it's pretty good for a basketball video game, right? I Ain't No Joke by Eric B. and Rakim. That's a classic, right? It fits in this game. And even Run This Town by Jay-Z featuring Kanye West and Rihanna. It has the right vibe, the right flow. I like that song on this game. However, the song Stress by Justice, which is legit a stressful song to listen to, Andrew, is on this soundtrack, and it sucks. I can't stand when that song comes on. I wish that wasn't included on this soundtrack.
Yeah, that one's on my list of odd fits as well, and least favourites to boot. Yeah, Stress by Justice, like you say, I guess it captures stress in musical form, but I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy real stress. I don't enjoy musical stress. So yeah, I could definitely do without that one in a basketball video game. It's not a good song. I don't like that at all.
So NBA 2K12 and NBA 2K11, these soundtracks just run together for my brother and I. In fact, I have a Spotify playlist with 2K11 and 2K12 songs on it. And my brother and I will routinely quiz each other when a song comes on and state which game is it from. And 50% of the time we're wrong, right? And it's because those two games have a very, very similar vibe when it comes to the song choices and whatnot. But I know you like this one on 2K12, Fast Lane by Bad Meets Evil, which Eminem is in, obviously. But it had a lot of rock that fit, right? And a lot of variety, but it fit. Like you had songs like Skeleton Boy by Friendly Fires, Here We Go by Chitty Bang featuring Q-Tip, Many Styles by Zion I, and then you had Rock Hood by Shinobi Ninja, Shapeshift by Dells, Thunder Bay by Hudson Mohawk, By the Numbers. I know a lot of people remember that one. That's one of my favorites on the soundtrack by Jamaica. It was more rock. It was before the Jay-Z influence, and a lot of the music just kind of fit the vibe of the game. This is also the game that had Basketball by Curtis Blow on it, and which was used heavily in the advertising. This game was about the NBA's greatest, right? And, it's the game with Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, and Magic Johnson heavily featured on the art and in the promotion and whatnot. So, I really enjoy the 2K12 and 2K11 soundtracks.
Fastlane was a great song for my cardio playlist, actually. 2K11, 2K12, I love those soundtracks. I don't think there's a song there that I don't like. Maybe one or two that I'm forgetting. Actually, is there a Drake song on 2K11? I think there is a Drake song on 2K11. So maybe that's one that
Over. Yeah,
that's right.
The song Over.
That's right. Okay. So there's maybe one or two that I'm not a huge fan of. But generally speaking, love those two soundtracks. One that I want to single out, actually, is We're Here to Save the Day by the Constellations. That one, from NBA 2K11, actually got me to check out the album that it's from, and I really enjoyed that whole album. It's in my Spotify library, so that is the great thing.
That song's great for the game, too.
Oh, that
song's great for 2K11. It's great when it comes on.
Yeah, and that is the great thing about basketball video games, is that they can introduce you to some new music, some artists that you may not have heard of, and release a few new favorite songs. So, yeah, became a bit of a fan of the Constellations from 2K11.
So what's funny is, I don't know if you've done this before, but Spotify has a DJ option where it will basically play songs that you routinely listen to, or it will suggest songs based on that genre.
Yeah,
right?
The AI
playlist.
And
it's And a song is forgotten or seldom played today when the DJ on Spotify says you are in 1% of the listeners for this song in the world. You're part of the 2% that have listened to this song over the last 30 days or something like that. And that actually happens often, honestly, Andrew. When these songs from these soundtracks get brought up, because a lot of these artists are not being promoted today. They're forgotten. Some of them not performing anymore. And if they are, it's at smaller venues and whatnot. But yeah, I find that interesting. And for the 2K11 soundtrack, like I said, another one that I just really like, Shutterbug by Big Boy. I really like that song. I don't like Over by Drake. I agree with you. But the NBA 2K11 theme song by Snoop Dogg, especially made for that game. Again, Serious by the Alan Parsons Project. You'll never hate that as a Chicago Bulls fan.
Not at all.
Andrew. No. But Hollywood by Art versus Science, Red Roller Skates by the Brunettes, Little by Little by the Chickarones, Skeleton Dance by Children Collide. Listen to these bands again. This is why I am, when the DJ on Spotify is about to play this song, they'll say I'm on the 1% of people listening to this over the last 30 days. There's that song, We're Here to Save the Day by the Constellations, but songs like Bow Down by Hogney, Pour It On by Dux Jones or Do Jones, depending on how you pronounce that. But yeah, so many solid tracks on 2K11 and 2K12.
I'm a fan of those soundtracks from around that time. Absolutely. And I'm all for eclectic listening habits. I think I might have said it on the podcast before, but on my Discman, back in high school, I was listening to a rotation of various mix CDs, Bare Naked Ladies, Eminem, D12, and Jimmy Buffett. It doesn't get more eclectic than that.
And the last soundtrack I'm going to bring up from 2K is actually NBA 2K10. And I don't like this one as much as 2K11 and 2K12. I think there's some strong songs on here that get me in the mood for basketball. But then there's other ones like Electric Feel by MGMT that definitely do not get me pumped up to play basketball. But there's some strong ones. like International by Charlie Tuna, Lock Down by Charlie Tuna, Champion NBA 2K10 edition by The Game. There is one really, really annoying song on this soundtrack. It's called Wave and Flag by Kanan. And Andrew, whenever this song comes on, I just want to shut it off. And it's just to remind people what song this is. It's the "When I Get Older, I Will Be Stronger. They'll call me freedom, just like a wave and flag." And it absolutely drives me nuts. So not a fan of that one.
So I actually do like a lot of the songs on the NBA 2K10 soundtrack. As weird as they are, I don't think they're necessarily a good fit. In fact, I would agree they're not a good fit for a basketball video game. But I kind of like listening to them in isolation. So again, it's kind of an eclectic choice on my part, but yeah, I can't disagree that very weird fit for a basketball video game. Before we go on, a reminder that the NLSC podcast comes out every week on the NLSC, nba-live.com, as well as our YouTube channel. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast apps. If you're listening on any of those apps, we'd greatly appreciate a review. To keep up with the show and everything we're doing with basketball gaming in general, connect with us on social media. On Twitter and Facebook, we are the NLSC. We also have an Instagram, NLSC Basketball, and on YouTube, we're youtube.com/NBA Live Series Center. Once again, visit us at nba-live.com, where in addition to the podcast, you'll also find all of our original content, as well as our forum and modding community.
Let's get to some of the NBA Live soundtracks, and then we'll get to the community responses to the community question centered around this topic. Basically, I asked people, what songs do you think didn't belong in basketball video games, and what songs, hit with you, what songs had the right vibe. But NBA Live 2005, Andrew, has one of the most underrated soundtracks in basketball video game history, in my opinion. Some of the songs that stand out to me are Carolina Pride by Gnome, The Best by Stat Quo, My Main Aim by MC Light, It's in the Game by Murphy Lee, featuring Jazzy Fa and Jody Breeze, and Whatever Happened to Murphy Lee, Andrew. There was that big thing at one point in the mid-2000s where he was doing songs with Nelly and everything, and then he just dropped off. Whatever happened to him? There's Here We Go by Dirtbag. And one of the cool things about NBA Live 2005, too, is just like in some of the early 2000s NBA Lives, there were songs that were tailored specifically for that game, for NBA Live 2005. And I think just that adds to the immersion. I think you listen to those lyrics and it makes you want to throw those players on the floor, the teams that are being discussed, etc. But yeah, I really love that NBA Live 2005 soundtrack.
Yeah, like I said before, I'm a big fan of those remixes, those NBA Live, EA Sports remixes of popular songs, getting some more basketball content in there. It's kind of funny when you go and listen to the original songs, obviously, and some of the content being more explicit, more raunchy. Chingy's right there, of course, in Live 2004. Great example once again. But Live 2005, yeah, I really enjoy the game, and I loved listening to the soundtrack, both while I was working on rosters and playing the game. Same goes for Live 06 for me, actually. It is my all-time favorite game, NBA Live 06 PC. Spent hours playing and modding that one, so I've listened to that soundtrack countless times. But I do have to give a special mention to Remember the Name by Fort Minor. It was also used as the song for the NBA playoffs for a couple of years there. Just an excellent basketball track, also for running to as well. Grind Time by Chamillionaire and Don't Stop by Charlie Tuna, some of the ones that stand out to me. But again, I love that era of NBA Live soundtracks.
I much prefer Charlie Tuna over Drake, right? So the games that had Charlie Tuna more heavily featured, I will prefer those soundtracks over the Drake soundtracks most of the time. Let's get to NBA Live 2004, piggybacking off of the incredible success of the NBA Live 2003 soundtrack. And the NBA Live 2003 soundtrack, Andrew, went platinum, right? One of the greatest basketball video game soundtracks of all time. Someone can test, maybe for sports games, the best ever. But NBA Live 2004 also is solid in its own right. Whether you like Right There or Not by Chingy, at least it was custom made for the game, and it got you thinking about basketball.
Yep.
Right? And the players that he discussed and everything. And the style still fits. Again, Clips is on here with Game Time. I mean, you had I Got It Poppin' by DeBrat, Live Like Me by Jermaine Dupri, a great classic NBA Live track. Flipside by Freeway, another victory by Mobb Deep, Top of the Game by Sean Paul. Yeah. I mean, is this soundtrack as good as NBA Live 2003? It's debatable. Maybe not, but it's still solid.
Yeah, it's up there for me. Absolutely. And I do want to highlight another victory by Mobb Deep, because that reminds me of the Dynasty cutscenes trailer, and of course the mode itself. Always picture the cutscenes, the ones they previewed during that teaser trailer was backed by another victory. So yeah, absolutely love that song for that reason.
Another notable song on that soundtrack that I like is I'm the Greatest Player by Lil Flip. And, any song that starts off with I'm the greatest player to ever play the game. Yeah, you got a good one there for a basketball video game. NBA Live 2003, Andrew. Again, soundtrack went platinum. It's a smaller soundtrack, but it has some awesome songs on it. It's in the Game by Fabulous, Get Live by Snoop Dogg, Let's Go by Just Blaze, featuring Freeway and Memphis Bleak. One of your favorite soundtrack songs of all time, Andrew, Blau by Hot Carl.
Of course.
Specifically made for NBA Live 2003. It's the Live Style 2003 mix. Ballin' Boys by No Good. I know you can hear that in your head now, etc. Just NBA Live 2003 was a massive success. I think as a video game in general, because it was the switch to the right stick triple threat and dribbling. They recovered basically from kind of blah Live 2001 and Live 2002, right? And they got the franchise overall back on track with this game. But then also, like I stated, the soundtrack, one of the greatest in sports gaming history.
Definitely. And they're not necessarily great fits as far as being hype-up songs, because they are more subdued. But If I Could Go by Angie Martinez, Full Moon by Brandy, I just love them on the soundtrack. I love having a couple of chill songs on there if they fit the overall vibe. And I think it does. I think it does still kind of fit the vibe, even if they aren't up-tempo and pump-up songs.
I think my favorite song on NBA Live 2003 is If I Can Go by Angie Martinez. I love that song. I actually think it does have overall the right vibe. And in my opinion, it almost reminds me of a better time in music. I enjoyed music and that genre a lot more back at that time. So yeah, I absolutely love that song.
You know, NBA Live 2002, it's full of instrumentals. They actually do have lyrics, those songs, but for whatever reason they just went with the instrumental versions. I want to point out Lady Venom by Swollen Members. Instrumental, like the rest of the soundtrack, it's kind of odd. I kind of like it, but it's also weird. It's got that vocalization as the chorus, basically. Again, you listen to the original lyrics, they're definitely not that appropriate, really, for a family-friendly game and a basketball video game. But yeah, that soundtrack is kind of memorable for the way it is instrumentals of pop songs, but yeah, a bit weird.
Yeah, I think that sometimes if they turn a song into an instrumental, it improves the fit, because a lot of the lyrics in these songs would not fly, or they just have no relation whatsoever to sports.
Exactly.
Or basketball. I do want to bring up Live 2001 because I know that Roger and Nate, the Live 01 legends, they're playing that all the time, right? And I played it a lot back in the day as well. And while it's not one of my favorite NBA Lives on the floor, I do actually enjoy the soundtrack. It has some super classics on here. Unstoppable by Montel Jordan. That's a great vibe, right? That's the game that makes me think of NBA Live 2001. Do the Freak by Bootsy Collins. Another solid soundtrack song. Well, I think while the soundtrack doesn't have many songs on it, I think the songs that are on there fit and give the right vibe.
Yeah, Live 2000 and 2001 with, 5 or 6 songs each on those soundtracks. Not a lot to choose from, but they did choose pretty well, so you didn't really get too bored listening to them.
And then lastly, and we're not going to talk about the 90s NBA Live soundtracks, but I want to point out that they were solid. And, the beats that were chosen, even for the NLSC top 10, that the music that's currently in the background for every single countdown that I release, that's from NBA Live 95. I think that, in the 90s, it was, mostly instrumentals and whatnot. But, a lot of nostalgia with those. But with NBA Live 2000, Andrew, Naughty by Nature, Hip Hop Hooray, Run DMC, Don't Stop, All I Know by Rozelle. I know you're singing that in your head right now, because that one's definitely a classic. Mothership Connection by Parliament, a lot of solid songs on NBA Live 2000. I never want to switch any of them off.
And I also want to acknowledge how much I enjoy those instrumentals from 90s NBA Live games that Traz was making at the time. I'd love to get him on the podcast sometime. Maybe we'll try reaching out. It'd be really interesting to get his insights into composing for those games, because I really do enjoy the NBA Live 96 jazzy R&B soundtrack. NBA Live 96 PC, that is, one of my all-time favorite games. Listen to that soundtrack, again, playing and modding that game so much over the years. In fact, the music we use for the weekly promo here on the NLSC podcast is the pause music from NBA Live 96 PC. Feels very appropriate to use that song in that context. Also want to give a quick mention to Live 07 and Live 08. Kind of weird, kind of esoteric, interesting mix of artists, as well as songs that are both upbeat and kind of a chill vibe as well. They're not my favourite games, Live 07 in particular, or Live 08, but yeah, I do actually like those soundtracks. Getting some songs in there like Crazy by Niles Barkley, and a couple of underground songs as well in those games. Yeah, as much as I don't really love those games, I do actually like the soundtracks.
Yeah, I also want to point out that, we mostly focused on NBA Live and NBA 2K here. But the NBA Shootout series had a couple memorable tracks in the early 2000s. The main menu music in NBA Shootout 2002, I love it. Absolutely love it. I actually have that on my Spotify playlist and whatnot. So if you can think of any non-NBA 2K and non-NBA Live basketball video game soundtracks or songs that you either didn't like, didn't think belonged, or really liked, make sure to comment those on the show, because I'd love to hear your thoughts on those as well.
Well, hey, to that point, What You Gonna Do and In the Zone from NBA Hangtime.
Yep, not just that. NBA Jam OFE has some awesome beats.
Agreed.
Right? Gets you absolutely pumped up. In fact, one of my brothers has that as a pump-up song, right, on his own playlist, and he'll listen to it from time to time. So, yeah, some of the arcade games had some memorable tracks that, brought the right vibe as well.
Actually, NBA Jam Tournament Edition, both the Super Nintendo and PC versions, great intro music, main menu music. I just love the way they'd build to a crescendo during the attract mode, and they just kind of exploded during a dunk in the attract mode reel. Go back and watch the attract mode reels for NBA Jam Tournament Edition. You'll see exactly what I mean. Great music in those games.
So let's get to the community responses. I asked, as it relates to soundtracks in basketball video game history, name a song that you felt didn't fit, odd choice for a basketball video game, and name a song that you liked. Maybe it's a song that makes you think of the basketball video game itself. And Mike P for 3 at Mike Pritchard stated, this song will forever remind me of NBA Live, and it's Remember the Name by Fort Minor. And Andrew, I know that that's one of your favorites.
Absolutely. Great to run to, great to listen to in a basketball video game.
Live 01 legend Roger Ward states, Let's Ride by Cho Claire. Hopefully I didn't butcher that. And Off the Hook by Bootsy Collins. Those will live rent-free in my head for eternity. And obviously Off the Hook by Bootsy Collins, part of the NBA Live 2001 soundtrack. And it's an excellent, excellent track.
It's funny because Off the Hook always seemed to be the song that played when NBA Live 2001 PC crashed. Occasionally, before I replaced the video card in our family PC circa 2001, a few months after the game came out, I had to get a new video card to play it properly. But it seemed whenever it crashed, it would be playing that song, and it would just be going, get busy, 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 desktop. And that became kind of a running joke with my cousin Clinton and I, that when that song would come on, that would go busy, 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 desktop, and it would always crash on that song. But I do like the song, despite those technical issues, which we were finally able to overcome.
T. Gendry at Bucky_T states 2K26 called Why I Love the Moon by Phony People. I like the song, but it's too deep for a basketball video game, so that's one that he's not too fond of on the game. One that he liked is NBA Live 2003 Blau, and obviously Andrew, that's a favorite of ours as well. NBA 2K14 The Ruler's Back by Jay-Z, NBA 2K11 Champions by Ron Artest, and I would also like to say that a lot of players get into music, and they'll try things like, they'll try rap, they'll try hip hop, they'll try to get into, recording their own music, and they're not good, right? I think that Ron Artest did an admirable job on that song. I don't want to shut it off. I think he does a good job with the song Champions. And then he also mentions NBA 2K9 In Yo Face by Unk. But yeah, those are some good choices.
Yeah, I'd have to agree that Why I Love the Moon is a nice song, but yeah, one of those weird fits for basketball video games.
Garva at Garva_23 states, If I Could, Live 2003. I think he's talking about If I Could Go, the Angie Martinez song, which again, for me, that's my favorite song on Live 2003 soundtrack. He states Can't Stop Me, Live 2004. Go from Live 2005. Our Life from Live 2005. Carolina Pride from Live 2005. So obviously he's a fan of that Live 2005 soundtrack, as am I. Like I stated earlier, I think it's one of the most underrated soundtracks in basketball video game history. He states The Ruler's Back in 2K14 and the 2K11 theme by Snoop.
Yeah, that's definitely a favorite, Snoop Dogg's 2K11 theme. The fact that he was mentioning sliders and attributes, I think, tickled us all as basketball gamers.
Moving over to Discord, Careless XCI states, he didn't like Def Leppard, Pour Some Sugar on Me, NBA 2K18. He didn't think that fit a basketball video game. And one that he likes and he thought was a great fit is George Clinton, Mothership Connection from NBA Live 2000. And yeah, that's a great track. Pep states Lupe Fiasco, Kick Push, NBA Live 07 is one that he didn't think fit and he didn't like. And he states that he likes Everything by the composer Traz Damji that was on NBA Live 95 through NBA Live 99.
Yeah, I can't disagree with him there.
Juicy Shack Meat states that Blurred Lines by Robin Thicke on NBA 2K14 was not a good fit. He did not like that song, and I completely agree with him. He thinks it's also inappropriate to play anywhere, really. It doesn't have strong lyrics, Juicy Shack Meat. It's also funny that Juicy Shack Meat would call anything appropriate when his handle, Andrew, is Juicy Shack Meat. He states that he likes Hold the City Down by DJ Premier featuring Papoose from NBA 2K16.
Yeah, Blurred Lines, just not appropriate in general. A lot has been said about that song, obviously, which we won't go into. But yeah, if nothing else, doesn't belong in a basketball game.
ZCB44 states he does not like Pour Some Sugar on Me by Def Leppard, or really any of the other glam rock songs they tossed in for a few years. Definitely agree there. Pour Some Sugar on Me doesn't fit, just like Sammy Hagar's I Can't Drive 55, etc. And he states that he likes Troy by Pete Rock and CL Smooth. He states, this song got me into hip-hop after hearing it on Street Volume 2.
Yeah, glam rock was definitely a choice, I'll say that much.
And the last response on Discord, Shy Guy states he didn't like Commaculations from NBA 2K25. That song is so annoying. He states it's very annoying and was the last thing I wanted to hear after a loss. Yeah, I absolutely can't stand that song, Shy Guy. I agree with you. He also brings up Blurred Lines by Robin Thicke, which was on the 2K14 soundtrack. He says that he liked Get Lucky on 2K14. He says it's such a good song, very groovy and just fun to listen to every time I boot up the game. And he also liked ADHD by Kendrick Lamar, perfect for doing my NBA Sims at 1 a.m. last summer.
Yeah, you want a good loop of songs when you're spending a lot of time in the menus, whether it's modding or simulating through my NBA. Absolutely.
And before we get to the Facebook responses, Andrew, I wanted to point out that there are songs that are obviously programmed to play more often. Songs that also play more often than not when you first boot up the game. There was a song on NBA 2K25 that absolutely drove me nuts, and it would play more often than not when I first booted up the game. And I swear it would come on again a few songs later at times. And there's a song called Little Boo Thang by Paul Russell. And I absolutely couldn't stand hearing this song over and over again. But yeah, not a fan when a song that I don't like is programmed to play more often.
Yeah, that's not fun. Gonna have to go back and listen to that one as well, just to share your pain.
So Andrew, what were the responses on Facebook?
So Lamond says, NBA Street Volume 2 and NBA Ballers had the best soundtracks in any basketball video game, in my opinion, and shout out to NBA Live 96 on Sega Genesis. May have just been a few songs that were variations of the same beat, but they were all bangers. Once again, Traz did a fantastic job as the composer for NBA Live back in the day, and yeah, like you said, NBA Street Volume 2, very strong soundtrack.
Yeah, I booted up NBA Street Volume 2 recently. In fact, I talked about it on last week's show. My girlfriend played a game against the CPU. She actually did win that game, and she's getting better at it the more she plays. But yeah, just all the vibes. It's a great soundtrack, and it fits perfectly for that style of game.
Citez, I apologize if I've mispronounced that, says, Live Like Me, man. And Selvin says, 2004 and 2003 are my favourite soundtracks for NBA Live. Yeah, like we said, Derek, 2 strong years back-to-back for NBA Live soundtracks.
I would say that the strongest run of soundtracks for the NBA Live series was NBA Live 2003, NBA Live 2004, and NBA Live 2005. I loved all 3 of them. I thought that the song choices fit. And I also liked those games. Like, I thought it was a strong era for the NBA Live series.
We talked about the NBA Live 2005 soundtrack, Derek. Charles says that track by Joel Ortiz, probably the best one. That is Mean Business. Yeah, I like that one as well. Has the great lyric, so ahead of my time, I can't wear a watch.
As long as the watch you're wearing isn't a Rolly with a dab of ranch, Andrew.
Absolutely. Cliff says most of 2K playlist up until the last 3 years, being very strong, that is, and says NBA Live had the best soundtrack every year they released, in my opinion. Yeah, that's a strong claim that Live always had the better music, in his opinion. A lot of people do like the 2K soundtracks just as much or more, and of course NBA Live, as it lost popularity, as it wasn't pleasing people on the virtual hardwood, probably less people listening to those soundtracks.
I was going to say, it's really a sign of the times, right? When you look at the artists that were making songs for NBA Live specifically, for NBA Live 2003, 2004, and 2005, the artists that were featured in general on those soundtracks, it shows you that, NBA Live was the most popular, right? At the time. And that's who the artists wanted to work with. That's who they wanted to be promoted through, etc. So yeah, for anybody questioning if NBA Live was ever on top, for those who have forgotten how popular NBA Live was at certain points during their life cycle, look no further than the soundtracks, because you had some of the most popular artists for the times making songs specifically for these NBA Live games.
Yeah, that pop culture relevance. We've talked about players talking about their ratings in NBA 2K, wanting to get their overalls up. Back in the day, you did have players excited to be on the cover of NBA Live and to be affiliated with NBA Live. I remember Adam Morrison talking about that in promotional materials for NBA Live 07. The kind of things he was saying in those videos are what players are saying now about NBA 2K. So yeah, that pop culture relevance was definitely there for Live up until it fell off. Jared says, some of the more recent 2K soundtracks are a bit odd in their song choices to me, and we would definitely agree with that. He continues, but I could listen to the NBA Live 2001 intro track all day if I had to. That is, of course, Unstoppable by Montel Jordan.
Yeah, I could just leave that on in the background and let it play, right? And that's how you know you have a strong song and overall a strong soundtrack. The songs like that are on my basketball video game playlist on Spotify, early mid 2000s NBA Live music and early mid 2010s NBA 2K music, and those flood that playlist of mine.
And finally, Martin's picks for Didn't Quite Fit But Was a Decent Song Anyway says Ali in the Jungle by The Hours in NBA 2K13, and favourite song in a basketball game soundtrack, It's in the Game by Fabulous, NBA Live 2003. Of course, that was the title track of the game. It was in the intro for Live 2003. Definitely an iconic song. Interesting choice for a bad fit as far as Ali in the Jungle. I do like that song, like running to it as well. It was on my cardio playlist, but no, I respect the choice.
Yeah, and It's in the Game by Fabulous is a classic. And what's funny is when you hear some of these artists, performing today, they still have that same sound. And actually, the Spotify DJ recommended a fabulous song, a new one. I believe it came out either last year or this year, and he sounds exactly the same. And the track actually is pretty solid and whatnot. So I like to see that, some of these artists are also still around, 20 plus years later, and that they can give that same vibe.
Yeah, like I said, basketball video game soundtracks have definitely introduced me to some artists that I might not necessarily otherwise listen to, even though I don't like the entire album or their entire catalogue. Certainly like those songs, but yeah, it has made me a fan of some of those artists. So thank you to everybody who responded to Derek's community question. We talk a lot about the mechanics of basketball video games, Derek, what we're playing, obviously, because that is what video games are for, to play, not just to put on and listen to the soundtrack. But soundtracks, music, are a big part of the presentation. They are a big part of games. You look at how popular Grand Theft Auto soundtracks have become, how songs have gotten popular because GTA put them on their in-game radio. Music is such an important part of video games and our nostalgia for them, so it's a lot of fun to reflect on our favourite tracks and also the ones that we didn't really care for.
Yeah, and that's why artists want to be a part of these games, right? They know that it's a great way to promote their music. 2K gets purchased by, the newest titles get purchased by over 10 million people, right? Every year. And then there's also the people that are just looking up these soundtracks and whatnot on YouTube and, other music sharing platforms. And so it's a lot of exposure. Like you stated, there's a lot of nostalgia that goes with it. It can help you, learn about new artists, new songs. And it can also be just fun to even revisit these games just to listen to the soundtracks. And I have done that before, and I've just left it on in the background. So just good stuff all around.
Yeah, that rush of nostalgia when you fire up a game and you see the menus and you hear those songs. Yeah, I love it. With that being said, that has brought us to the end of the show. Thank you for joining us this week, and please join us again each and every week on the NLSC, our YouTube channel, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're also on social media, and we invite you to connect with us there. So, Derek, go ahead and plug the handles.
Yeah, you can reach me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at D43G and at D4384. I'm also on the NLSC at D43 and on YouTube at D43. And when I say D4 I don't mean DEEFORTHREE. I mean D43. DEE, the number 4, THREE.
It's like Left 4 Dead. They stole the idea from you.
Exactly. I came first.
As for me, I'm Andrew in the forum and Andrew NLSC on X and Blue Sky. The NLSC is on X, Facebook, and Blue Sky at the NLSC. We're also NLSC Basketball on Instagram and Threads. We're on YouTube at NBA Live Series Center. And of course, keep a look to the NLSC itself, nb-live.com, for all things basketball gaming. So, thank you again for tuning in, and until next time, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Derek.
Go get buckets, everyone.